Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We're here. We had a trade yesterday involving the Maple Leafs and the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm sure everybody will be overjoyed that we'll be talking Leafs for the majority of the program, but what the heck. We have an interesting pre-show to discuss, and we'll start that now. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, chat room's not loading, so if I don't respond, that's why. So anyhow, I'll check it out in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing that started today, I heard on the radio that Wawa has now started up a sponsorship with the Baltimore Ravens. And
for those who don't know, specify what Wawa is.
So Wawa is not a fast food. It's a convenience store like a 7-Eleven or a Circle K or Royal Farms or
Wilson Farms in Western New York. I don't know if they were bigger than Buffalo area, but go ahead.
Probably not. And so, no, but I mean, Circle K made it here instead of Royal Dairy Farms because they weren't from the area. Circle K was like when I was in Houston, that was the first time I'd ever seen a Circle K. Right. And I think 7-Eleven started in Dallas, so maybe that was the Houston answer.
I think so.
Yeah. So anyhow, so there was this outcry because they wrote a press release and they were like, well, we're now joining with another team in the nest because, they have a sponsorship with the Eagles and now it's the Ravens, right? So, of course, Eagles fans start whining about that, which is typical, so whatever. But it did make me start to think about sandwiches because I could tell that one of the gripes is because what to call the sandwich, right? Because every area has a different name for it, or at least regionally they do. So I did some research, and so the worst of all of them is the grinder. And the reason
I don't get that one.
Well, the grinder is, and I'm looking it up because I have notes. It was for dock workers.
Okay.
So dock workers would get these sandwiches, and they nicknamed them grinders. And so that's really regional. Like that's New England regional. So if I'm going to make one name for a sandwich like that, that's not a sandwich, then I can't call it a grinder because it's really just for a small part of the country.
Okay.
So grinder's out. So the people that ask for grinder, it's out. So now we get into hoagie. Hoagie is what they use here in the Philly area. Problem with hoagie is, and this is why Anthony tweeted to us and said, where I fall, is because really a hoagie was just Italian meats. It's like the Italian hero or whatever you want to call it,
right?
That you would get if you go to Subway, whatever, you order the Italian. That's what was a hoagie in this area.
Well, okay, let me stop you there because I think that there is a designation in terms of hoagie versus sub. I don't think they're the same thing. Now, maybe
they're not. I'm gonna get to that.
Okay, but this is the thing, and this is this might be just the Buffalo area, but I'll go with it because that's all I know. A submarine sandwich or a sub is, two pieces of bread in a sub roll cut separately with meat, or, like it could be a cold sub.
It
could be anything, pizza sub, whatever. But a hoagie is more of an open-faced sandwich where the bun is not cut in two. It's opened up.
It's split. That's true.
But it's not opened up into two pieces, and then they stuff whatever, the chicken or chicken. That's the designation.
That's true. So then there's that. So then we get into the subcategory. Now, other people tried to explain on Twitter that based on the size of a sandwich, that's why some of these designations started to happen, these names. But sub was really only for a long sandwich, and it's only because it looked like a submarine. So that's out. So because, again, it's very specific, and that doesn't cover like a 6-inch, a 10-inch. It really was just the long roll, and that's it. And it looked like a sub, so they're like, hey, submarine sandwich. Okay. So the winner, and I know people are going to say this is a bias, but it's true because you can look it up online. The winner is Hero, simply because there is no size designation. Actually, Hero is for either a small one or a long one. They have it for more than one. So they cover both areas. They cover the smaller version and they cover the long roll version. So I think Hero is actually, more representative. I really do. So to me, Hero is the winner, and everybody else comes in second. And you know what that means when you come in second. You're the first loser. So, no, I'm kidding.
Well, I see. If I had to choose one in terms of a coverall, in terms of the name, it would be Sub. So,
but it's not, because Sub is only for like the 12 or 15-inch sandwich type.
And they call it a half a sub. They call it a half a sub.
Okay, but understand that the sub only covers the roll that looks like a sub. The word Hero covered a lot more different types of bread. It was more inclusive. Hero is more inclusive, Mike.
You have to be a hero to do 10 minutes on this crap.
Hey, I'm just telling you, I did my homework. That is what I came up with.
Well,
and if you don't like it, too bad.
Well, let me take a tangent on this, and then we'll start. Then we'll talk hockey. We'll take some questions here because there's not a ton of news, but we have a few things to talk about. And obviously, you're opening up the chat.
Move on.
Yes. I saw somebody tweet this, and I agree with this sentiment, and I think it can be applied to subs or heroes or hoagies. That, like, I can't remember who it was specifically, so I'm not trying to plagiarize them, but when you go out to a restaurant and you order a salad, it always tastes better than the salad that you make at home. It just inherently does.
Okay. And why do you think that is?
I don't know. The same thing goes with a sub, though. I've tried to make a submarine sandwich or a long sandwich with the same, what I think are the same materials. Tried the sub oil instead, or use the mayo. Toasted the bun. It never tastes as good.
I don't know. See, I think I can recreate it. You know what I think it is? I think it is depending on how you season it. Like, I'm not one of these people, like, when I go get one, I don't want extra salt. I don't want oregano. I don't want onions. I don't get any of those things, but I get, either mustard or mayo, maybe a Russian dressing, those kinds of things. If you want to put pepper, sure, you could put a little pepper. But I think it's about the seasoning part, because I think otherwise you can recreate it at home unless you can't get the same kind of bread.
Well, I also think that the fact is that
you're not trying hard enough, Mike.
They're no, I am, but but the thing is, they're making them like 40, 50 a day, and I'm making it once in a millennium. So just by practice, just by doing it over and over, that they're doing them better than I can. But I'm just saying, I'm using like if I order a roast beef sub. And I'm using the same stuff that they are, and it tastes okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm not spitting it out.
All right, so let me stop you there, because I worked at a deli, right? So, you may not be using the same type of roast beef. Let's start with that.
Okay.
And so that's a thing. So depending on which roast beef, which brand, there is a way to season it, and there are people that season them differently. So that may be the thing.
Right.
Because when it gets cooked, they're seasoning it when it gets cooked. When you're doing it, it's already done however you got it from whatever place you got it from. You know what I mean?
Right. You
maybe need to start it by making your own roast beef and then thinly slicing it and then making the Hero. Yeah. And that's what I think you should do.
You know what? It's too much friggin' trouble. I'm just going to go out and buy a sub.
Yeah, that's why I knew you were going to default.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, July 24th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, while I was writing a story about the fact that Tyson Berry chose number 94 as his jersey, because that's where we are in the summer. We're little innocuous little stories, or most of the things that we have to write about. The Maple Leafs tweeted out, first it was Renaud Lavoie of TVA Sports, then Elliot Friedman, and then it exploded wide that the Leafs
exploded.
Well, I mean, I'm saying in the middle of July, this I think constitutes an explosion, because it's just that the Leafs pulled off a deal acquiring a 4th-round pick in 2020 for goalie Garrett Sparks. But included in this deal was the contract of one David Clarkson, the David Clarkson that the Leafs in 2013 signed to a 7-year deal for, I think it was $36.25 million, 5.25.
What a deal.
Yeah,
that was bad out of the gate, by the way, because if anybody had watched how David Clarkson scored his goals in New Jersey, you never would have signed him to that kind of deal because you realized it's not sustainable.
No, he was a guy who scored his goals in front of the net. But you remember, this was the Leafs.
And he had a career year. He was another career year guy.
Well, he had the career year a year before. He had like 19 goals.
Yeah, that's right.
But he had 31 the year before that.
Right.
But you have to factor in that at that point, this is the Leafs coming off the 4-1 collapse in Game 7. They went out and they traded for a 2-time Stanley Cup winner in David Bolland from Chicago, who played good until he had the Achilles injury, thanks to, I think it was Alex Burrows in Vancouver. They go out and they spend big money and sign Clarkson for a 7-year deal. One of the first deals that was heavily signing bonus, which made it basically buyout proof. And from the very beginning, you're right, Russ, from the very beginning, starting with the preseason game where he jumped off the bench to defend Phil Kessel from John Scott and gets a 10-game suspension, it went downhill from there. He never played well for the Leafs, and his skills deteriorated. And then, he started having injury problems, and then the trade to Columbus for Nathan Horton. And ironically, now Nathan Horton and Clarkson are both on the Leafs payroll with a year left in their contracts. Now, a lot of people were puzzled about why the Leafs were doing this. And I think, if you want to read, and I talked about this.
I think they have a closet full of his old jerseys and they want to sell them, so now they could sell them again.
There you go. Yeah, they're going to be a sale at Real Sports, like 95% off. But the reason for this deal is Mitch Marner. And I'll try to explain it as quickly and as possible here. The Leafs were around 4.5, close to 5 million under the cap before the trade. For LTIR to work, and they would have placed Nathan Horton on LTIR at the beginning of the season, you have to be as close to the cap as possible, close to the $81.5 million cap, to get the full effect of LTIR.
Right.
At this point, the Leafs were keeping that 4 million, 4.5, 4.8. I think it was 4.8. They weren't close enough. So if they would have put Nathan Horton on LTIR at the beginning of the season, they would have only opened themselves up about $500,000, $600,000 worth of cap space. With the trade, at this point, Clarkson's contract counts against the cap. They still have the 10% over the cap, so they have about $7 to $8 million in space pre October 1st when the season starts. So they have room to sign Marner. They'd probably have to move a few things around, but they could still do it before camp. With Clarkson, at the beginning of the season, if they're right up against it, and right now they're over the 81.5, they get the full $10.55 million of cap space when they place those two players on LTIR. Dave Poulin on TSN Radio this morning explained it pretty well. Not only does it open up space for the Leafs after October 1st, it potentially makes it possible for them to sign Marner like they did Nylander or later into the season because of that prorated amount on the first year of the contract. So they would have
only if Marner feels like coming in and playing until they do it, and he probably doesn't.
Well, no, I mean, he's not going to do that. I mean, I'm saying if the impasse lasts into November or December, before December 1st, like Nylander, before this trade, the Leafs would not have been able to sign him because that prorated first year, they wouldn't have the flexibility. Right. Now they do. So they have flexibility still before October 1st, and now they have flexibility.
They're prepared for both.
They're prepared for both. So
smart. That's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, in that instance, that they it was very smart. Now, the other ramifications of this deal, and then I'll give Russ a chance to talk here. The Leafs, Vegas clears the 5.5 or $5.25 million of Clarkson's deal, and that enabled them to sign Derek England to a 1-year deal, and may enable them to sign Gusev because depending on what Gusev is willing to take. If he's looking for $4 million, then they might not have the room. But let's talk about that first.
Before you get to that,
okay.
Circling back to Tyson Barrie's uniform number, do you know the only Leaf that wore number 94 without looking? Because I looked.
Two. There's
I
two.
saw one in the list. Okay, you knew it already.
Yeah, well, I wrote about it yesterday.
Okay,
but I knew about it beforehand. One was Sergei Berezin.
Right, that's the one that I saw.
And the other was Yannick Perreault when he came back for his third incarnation as a Maple Leaf in I think 2007.
So really, all Barry has to do is have half a good season, and he'll be the best number 94 that's ever worn the.
Well, Sergei Berezin wasn't bad. I'm not going to take that away from him. He was an effective forward for a few years, but but you know what? I did say this. If Lou was around, there's no chance in hell that he would have allowed Barry to take 94 and William Nylander to take 88. He would have said,
he wouldn't have.
He would have said, stop.
Right. No, it's true. He doesn't allow the fun with that. He's very staunchy with that. No, that's a good point. No, as far as this deal, I think it was very smart on the account of Dubas doing what they did. Obviously, he's got a good cap guy. You have to have a great cap guy to survive in this league. He did that. But Dubas helped cause the problem when he waived McElhinney, and we went down this slippery slope, of the goaltending and then signing Sparks and all these other things.
Right.
He had to clean up his own mess. He got out of it this time. And then Mike Babcock's also culpable because Babcock is the one who really started all of this by not liking any of their backups. Really, he's never really liked any of their backups.
Well, he liked McElhinney.
He liked McElhinney. That's true. He liked McElhinney, and Dubas didn't. So, yeah, I mean, you got a problem there with the coach and the GM with the backup goalie.
Right, and I see that, and just on the Leaf page, and then we'll go to the Vegas page here. Yeah, I mean, going back to 2016, the Leafs brought in Jonas Enroth as the backup goaltender, and Babcock gave him about 4 games before he decided he sucked and he didn't want him. And then they tried Antoine Bibeau and a few other guys, and then they picked up McElhinney off of waivers, and Babcock really liked McElhinney, and he was the backup to Freddie Anderson for the end of year 1 and all of year 2. Last year at training camp, and I was there, it was clear to me that Babcock begrudgingly was being told, we have to go with Sparks. Right. Maybe we can sneak one of these guys through waivers, Pickard or McElhinney, but we're going to go with Sparks. The guy won every award in the AHL and, won a Calder Cup. So we're going to go with him. He's 25 years old and McElhinney's 35. Right. Well, they were built last year to win the Stanley Cup, and this was not a time to experiment with a 25-year-old backup. And in the end, the games that the Leafs lost with Garrett Sparks in goal cost them home ice advantage and maybe cost them the series against the Bruins.
Right.
So I think everybody has to eat a little responsibility on that one. But I've been saying since the end of the year, and you know this, that Garrett Sparks would never play another game as a Maple Leaf once that situation in the playoffs happened where Babcock essentially said, you're not the backup anymore, and Michael Hutchinson is. I knew at that point that Garrett Sparks was done, especially with the fact that they have 2 prospect goaltenders in the organization, and Ian Scott and Joseph Wall, and they needed to have unfettered access to lots of work in the ECHL and the AHL, and Sparks being there would have been an impediment to that. So now this is the question I have, because I'm
going to break in for a minute because David Buckley looks like he's getting in late on the food conversation because his wife's close to delivering, expecting to deliver. So we congratulate him on that. But unfortunately, his food take is bad because he says Jimmy John's is greater than Subway and Wawa. Jimmy John's is not greater than Wawa. Anything's better than Subway. The Jimmy John's bread is awful. I don't care if they bake it. It's awful.
I will give you a clue here. Jimmy John's opened a location in my old neighborhood in downtown Buffalo, and within 6 months they were closed because they stink. They were terrible.
The only reason it stays open by me is because of college.
Yeah, it's cheap.
It's cheap. Otherwise, it would be gone. What did they have? Like a cranberry turkey sandwich? There's a place in Chicago that makes it with stuffing that kills them. It's not even close. I forget the name of it. I've had it a few times when I was in the Chicago area. You would eat that every time over Jimmy John's. I would throw Jimmy John's in the gutter. Anyhow.
It's terrible. Now, okay. Here's
this part of it.
Okay.
Garrett Sparks, to me, is better than Jordan Subban. So this is an upgrade for them.
Now, Malcolm. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think
he is. I think at this point in time. Now, in a year or two, if they stick with Subban, maybe you'll be right. But I think right now, at this point in time, he's better. And with Marc-Andre Fleury getting a little more injured each year,
right?
They did do the right thing by getting somebody that has a little bit of experience in the NHL to back him up, because that has been a weak point of that team too. They got away with it the first year, right? Spectacularly, putting everybody in there, including, the guy from juniors whose name is escaping me right this moment.
Yeah, Ferguson.
Yeah. And so that was good.
Now the problem is here, and I'm pretty sure this is correct. Subban and Sparks both have to clear waivers. And they're not going to carry 3 goaltenders. They're only going to carry 2. So you're exposing one of them to waivers. I think you're safe on Sparks. I think the fact that Sparks played terribly last year.
Yeah, you probably could flip him down to start the season,
right,
and then bring him up when Subban fails or if he fails.
And the one advantage for both of them are they're both one-way contracts. So teams don't want to claim a goaltender who's on a one-way contract because they may eventually want to sneak that guy down to the American Hockey League, and most teams don't want to, pay $750,000 for a third goaltender in the minors. So, I mean,
how old is Sparks? Is he 25 as well?
Sparks is 25. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the same age, and right now, like, Sparks is the better NHL goalie, I think, today.
I mean, maybe my opinion is colored by the fact that he lost 8 of his last 10 games, and really in the second half of the season, he could not stop a beach ball. He was
same save percentage though. Both have .902, and to be honest, both have the similar defenses. So it's a close call either way.
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Vegas Golden Knights signed Derek England to a 1-year contract. So, they took care of a veteran guy who has been there since the inception of the team. They may, now I don't know whether this clearing of Clarkson's deal opens up enough room for Gusev, but maybe things can be moved around. I mean, how good do you think Gusev is?
I think he is a third line, potentially a second line talent on the right team that isn't that good, that needs that little extra speed and creativity. Gusev could be pretty effective, though, at the NHL level. He can, and he probably could do it right away. So problem is, like you said, if he asks for $4 million, he's not going to get it. But I'd offer him $3 million.
Yeah, on a 1-year deal, and then I'm pretty sure he's arbitration eligible after that. If it's similar to guys like Zaitsev, who came over at like age 24 or 25, it's the 1 year. Although, well, no, he's an RFA. Yeah, I mean that's the question. Is he? He's not an arbitration eligible RFA, but maybe he is after a 1-year deal. But how could he be negotiating unless it's essentially either you give me $4 million or
I think that's all it is. I think it's just talk from the agent back to the club, like,
or I'm not coming on, or I'm going to re-sign with the KHL. It's either you pay me that or I'm going to re-sign. So
yeah, but I mean he hasn't re-signed yet, and their season starts soon. Yeah. So you got to figure this is going to come to a head in the next week or so.
Yeah, his leverage is expiring fairly quickly because once training camp opens, I don't know how amenable some KHL team will be to signing him during their training camp.
Yeah, I think that would definitely count against him. Like I said, I think he'd be a good addition. I think he could score 15, 20 goals, get 50 points. I would do it. I kind of wonder, though, will he ask for more because of the problems that Shipachyov had? Is that fair to say? Because those guys all talk. They do.
Sure. And, I mean, the thing is that the the landscape of the Russian player in terms of, this is similar to Radulov coming back after the situation in Nashville. I mean, he had success coming back from Russia, first playing for Montreal, then playing for Dallas. But initially, when he came back with Nashville, it was a disaster. I mean, he did not play well when he signed late in that season. So, I mean, Shipachyov didn't work. And I mean, the thing is like you can always go back if you have a landing spot. It's just a question of whether he would have a landing spot if he jumps ship and comes to the NHL and plays, wherever he's going to play. So
the one thing you got to say about Gusev, I just looked it up in my notes because I put up some KHL notes occasionally on Sportsology, and he did play with Yakupov and Datsyuk. So he is used to playing with guys that have played in the NHL.
For SKA St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Well,
that's an important fact too,
Yeah, and more than likely you're not going to be playing with players at such a high skill level on the third line in Vegas. So
no, but it is what it is at that point.
Now the other impact of this deal was the Leafs announced about an hour ago officially the signing of players that had been reported that were signed earlier this month. Guys like Garrett Wilson from former Pittsburgh Penguin, Kenny Agostino, but a couple other names came out, and the one that attracted a little bit of attention to me, Russ, is Pontus Aberg, who played for I think he played for three teams. He's played for three teams in the last 2 years. He played for Nashville, he's played for Minnesota, and he played for Anaheim. You can say at 25 years old he's a journeyman, but he scored 11 goals last year in limited time in Anaheim. He was like their second or third highest goal scorer at the time that they traded him, which was bizarre. I get the feeling that this is Kyle Dubas's a 2019-20 attempt at Tyler Ennis, because this is a guy who could plug in on a fourth line. He has skill, he has speed. I mean, and if it doesn't work out, then he's a Marley. So I think this is a good risk.
I mean, he has more speed than finish. We know that.
Right.
He's one of those guys that, he's tantalizing. So depending what you sign him for, it might be worth a go. Would I have him at the NHL level over Jeremy Bracco? Me personally, no.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that Bracco's, I believe Aberg is a left winger, and they have, he can play.
Aberg's a left winger too.
But no, Bracco's a right.
Oh, he's a right. Okay.
Bracco's a right, and that's the problem. If Marner gets signed, then the right side with the Leafs is Marner, Nylander, Kapanen, and Trevor Moore, and they believe that Trevor Moore is a better in a fourth line role than Bracco's. Bracco's going to be in the top 9 to be extremely effective. But the other names were Tyler Gaudette, who's a longtime minor leaguer, and Cal Casilla.
Isn't that Adam's brother?
I think so.
Yeah.
And Cal Casilla, who I don't know much about. I think he was in the Anaheim organization previously. Yeah. But these are guys who are fillers for the American Hockey League. The Leafs see value in having a strong AHL team, and guys like Agostino, if they don't make the Leafs, are probably going to do very well in the American Hockey League. One interesting thing, and then we'll move on from this, that Dave Poulin mentioned on TSN Radio this morning, and I wrote about it last week. With the tightness against the cap, the Leafs at home, you're going to see them exercise the transaction list very vigorously next year, especially against the cap. They could carry 20 players when they're at home. Just the players that they're going to play to save cap space. On road trips, they may carry an extra defenseman. On long road trips, they may carry
road though. And I'm going to tell you, I watched Philly do that the year that Hextall took over, and they were just sending guys up and down every day. When they got home, there was a different guy that got sent up, and they were doing similar things. It gets tiresome, man.
It really gets tedious, and it'll be tedious to report because you'll say, it's like, okay, great, like they played a Friday night game on the road. They play Saturday night at home. So on Saturday morning, you're going to get 2 transactions sending players back to the Marlies. And that after a while, that it does it's going to wear you out, but that might be the reality for next year because they're so tight against the cap. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it would be nice to have the Marner situation resolved, but I think that's going to continue on at least till training camp. And
it's
now
over another month, that's for sure.
Yeah, now the Leafs are prepared for it being a little lengthier. So, okay, we'll talk. Let's talk about some free agents out there. If you look at the list of unrestricted free agents yet unsigned on Cap Friendly, there are names that I didn't think we would see there. A couple of them that I expect to hear being signed fairly soon, and that is Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau. But it hasn't happened yet, and I'm just a little puzzled why it hasn't, Russ.
Well, I mean, I think they're another team that wants to have everything in order, and then they're like, all right, Joe, now we'll sign your deal. I think they're giving him literally what's left. So I don't know. I have to look on Cap Friendly. There must be somebody that they're still negotiating with.
Well, it might be Marleau, but I mean, Marleau really doesn't have much leverage here. I mean, he was bought out by Carolina. The Sharks right now have $4.68 million in available cap space. They have no RFAs in the minors or on their 23-man roster. So, maybe it's $2 million.
They're figuring out how to split it between Marleau and Thornton. Then.
Yeah, I mean, if it's $2 million a year for each, I mean, let's say this: if they're quibbling for after the money that they've made on $2 million a year, then I wouldn't be surprised if San Jose walks away. It's like, if you want to play, that's what we have. That's all.
Right.
If you want a chance to win a Stanley Cup, we'll pay you.
If that were the case, Thornton would have been signed already somewhere else.
Right. I mean, we haven't heard a peep from every indication. Thornton is only going to sign in San Jose, or he's going to retire.
It's kind of weird that him and Marleau are hanging out there. It sort of makes me think they might be doing one more move so they could pay him like $3 million each. Like a minor move just to trade a player for a draft pick.
Well, if you look at their roster right now, and I'm pulling it up as we speak here. I mean, Melker Karlsson makes $2 million, and he's a UFA at the end of the year.
Pretty useful, though. Yeah.
Yeah. They already traded Justin Braun, so their top three defense. They're not moving Karlsson, they're not moving Burns, they're not moving Vlasic. Yeah, I mean, and after Brendan Dillon, who's making 3.2, their bottom pairing guys are Tim Heed and Dalton Prout, and there's not a lot. I mean, they could move Aaron Dell if they think they can find a cheaper backup. But say a backup on a minimum contract is $700,000. Aaron Dell's making 1.9. That's only opening up $1.2 million. So
that doesn't solve it if they want like 3 each.
Right. So they may have to, and maybe that's the delay. I mean, it could be simply they're delaying until August because they want to make a splash, or they want to make a splash before the opening of training camp. But, honestly, I mean, how much of a splash do you really need to make? So,
well, I mean, here's the other option. Maybe they do trade one of those bottom pairing guys. And remember, like Nick DeSimone played a little last year and he was pretty good.
Right.
Maybe he fills one of those roles, and that's where they get the extra money from.
Yeah, I mean, he might get some playing time on the bottom pairing because offensively he's pretty decent. Now here, the Jake Gardiner is the one that everybody is surprised is still out there. I still believe he's going to get signed fairly soon. It's not going to be with Toronto. There were some people who were saying, well, all these now they open up space. No, it's not happening because Jake Gardiner wants a multi-year deal, and I don't think the Leafs are in a position to give him a multi-year deal, especially for the money he's looking for. So I think he's going to have to look elsewhere. Montreal's been rumored. Detroit's been rumored. Buffalo's been rumored. So, I mean, we'll see. But he's 28 years old, and he's still unsigned, which is –
who is this for?
Jake Gardiner.
Jake Gardiner. Yeah, I think he's getting a 1-year deal. I think teams don't like what's going on, what went on with his back, and I think they're going to be like, Jake, we love you. We'll give you $5 million. Come and show us, and maybe we'll sign you next year.
So you think it's a 1-year prove it like Wayne Simmons?
Yeah, I think I know it seems I know some people will fight that, but there really is no other good reason why he's not signed right now. He clearly wants to play, so it's clearly about term. I don't even think it's about AAV anymore. I think it's all about term. I'm giving the 1 year $5 million because if he doesn't get the term he wants, then he's going to look for the highest AAV he can get. And I don't think anybody would go deeper than $5 million on him. Do you?
No, I think at the most he's going to get $5 million if it's a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal. And that's why I completely rule out Toronto, because Toronto would only probably give him a 1-year deal and probably wouldn't give him any more than $3 million, which is a pay cut from last year. And so, from reports, his back is fine, but obviously that, we don't know that for sure. And that has to be a contributing factor to the reason why he hasn't been signed yet.
Yeah, there's no question. I think his camp can say whatever they want. And I think teams would probably ask for medicals. And I think they're probably like, all right, there's a little bit of an issue here. So, because otherwise, you tell me like the Detroit Red Wings wouldn't have signed him to like a 3-year deal otherwise right now.
No, because, the Detroit Red Wing defense is horrendous.
Right.
You've got 3 defensemen over the age of 33 whose contracts are expiring at the end of the year: Green, Erickson, and I think Trevor Daley. They need quality on the blue line. After DeKaiser, and, to an extent Green, but I think Green's going to be a rental. The only guy who I think is quality right now is their 18-year-old first-round pick, Sider.
Well, no, Cholowski, I think, is quality.
Right, true. And he split time, and I don't know if he's going to make the team.
I think he'll make it.
Probably will. Probably, if they start going into like Joe Hicketts and Philip Roenick, get younger, if they can move some of those older guys out, then that might be a direction that Yzerman wants to go.
You think like Gardner, if he were completely healthy or at least had no issues, that's a good starting point to, after you're going to lose Green, to still have him to sort of mentor the other young offensive defenseman that you have.
Yeah, Gardner's the top pairing guy on Detroit.
Yeah,
and that's a commentary on how bad Detroit's defense is, because Gardner is not a top pairing guy for almost any other team in the NHL.
Right, but it also shows that there's obviously something else at play here.
Right. Okay, a couple other forwards that are still unsigned. Derek Brassard moved an awful lot last year. He went from Pittsburgh to Florida to Colorado at the deadline. He's only 31 years old, but only scored 14 goals. 23 points, only 9 assists for a center, which is a little strange. I think there's still something there, Russ. But it's so far. We're almost to August, and he is yet to be signed.
Well, because it's probably like everybody's coming in with a 1-year deal, so he probably doesn't love that, and so he's not going to get security. So now he's waiting probably for the best team that has a chance to win to give him the best offer. Mm-hmm. And that's what it'll be. It'll be probably like a 1-year, $3 million or less offer. And that's really what he's worth right now, because he's not a great faceoff guy. He's not very physical. He will score some goals. If you put him on the power play, he's still pretty good, but he's not nearly what he used to be. And he never really ever was what they thought he'd be.
Right.
You can start there and just go from there. But at the end of the day, it's diminishing returns with him. And you're right. If you're not even a playmaker, how many teams are looking for a goal-scoring center? And it's not like it's a lot of goals. So, that's an issue.
3 of the players in the top 10, and by top 10, I mean players, they're based on their salaries last year. 3 defensemen, Dion Phaneuf, Andrew McDonald, Mark Mathot, and you can throw Nicholas Kronwall in there as well, who's 38. I don't know whether any of them are going to get contracts.
No way for Kronwall. You could literally – I didn't even notice it because I didn't watch a lot of Detroit until Kevin Allen said he's literally playing on one leg. And then I watched it, and son of a gun, he really was. But
he was still effective on one leg. That was the thing.
Yeah, but you can only do that for so long in this league. And
and tell me if you agree with this. I think the fact that Yzerman came back and became the general manager for the Red Wings is preventing Kronwall from finishing his career in Detroit.
Absolutely, yeah, because he didn't want Datsuk back.
Right. So, I mean, I think he would have been capable of playing on that defense. But what is the point of adding another 35-plus guy
No
on
point.
the line for a team that could be challenging for the number 1 pick in the draft?
This is what I love about Steve Yzerman as an executive, because he always looks to get younger. He spends an inordinate amount of time on player development and prospects, and you saw what Tampa did when he was there. It was amazing, the results with that. And he won't bring back buddies. He won't bring back former teammates. He won't bring back someone just because he likes them. That's an unusual trait to have in this league, if you think about it.
Yeah, the only guy he's brought back from Tampa so far has been Filppula, and Filppula had a pretty decent year as a depth guy for the Islanders. So, but yeah, no, I don't think he plays favorites. I think that he's looking. That team needs to get young. They need to find out about some of these players. And the Detroit Red Wings have the most dumpable contracts in the NHL. Those 3 defensemen I talked about, and then a forward complement of guys like Justin Abdelkader and Luke Glendening. And, there's a few others, the veteran guys that are signed on long-term deals that I'm sure they want to get rid of, but they probably can't because they have too many years and too much AAV on their current deals.
Adam pointed out that Nishushkin's still a UFA, and he's going to end up going back to the KHL. I don't think any team wants him because I don't think he ever showed anybody more than just like for a 20-game stint what he could be in this league. So I don't think any team wants him as a project anymore.
I'm surprised. First of all, I'm surprised that he hasn't hooked up with a KHL team yet. Because like we just said, it's getting to the point where training camp is opening up, and he's the youngest UFA out there. He's 24 years old.
Shows you though.
Yeah, I mean, he never recovered from that hip injury.
Yeah,
he came back from the KHL. He played average in the KHL, and they gave him a 2-year contract, and they bought him out after one year.
And how does it look that ISS had him ranked number 1?
Jesus. Other prominent names, Jason Pominville. I think there's an outside chance.
And I want to say it wasn't for the whole year, but it was for a short.
No, I know. There's an outside chance that Pominville gets a PTO with the Sabres. He's still well respected, although.
I think it's Sabres or bust. I'm getting that feeling now.
Yeah, I think you're right. Matt Molson, I think his career is over with. Mark Mathot, his career.
Be a little nicer about it.
Well, no, I mean, hey, the guy made $5 million the last 5 years, and he played the last 2 in the American Hockey League, and the Sabres thought so little of him, they sent him to California.
Hey, listen, there were plenty of guys on the Bills that made that kind of money and did nothing too. I mean, let's not go there.
Yeah, but they spread it out amongst all the baby mamas that they had. We're not talking Adrian Peterson here, folks.
No.
Okay, Mark Mathot. Unfortunately, it sounds like he has damage to his knee that might prevent him from playing. I saw a couple reports when I was looking into the possibility of him being an option for the Leafs as a training camp invite. That he's still trying to come back from this knee injury. He came back at one point, played a game or 2, and then shut it down. And he at 34 years old, he might be done, which is sad because I think at his height, he was a pretty good.
How many years though? It seemed like it was only for like 3 or 4 years. That's it.
What the window with him and Carlson? Yeah, I think
the window that he was really good.
3 or 4 years is about right.
Yeah, it's a shame. He could have been more, and that's why Dallas signed him to the deal they did. I felt like the deal was a little risky, but I was like, Mathot's a pretty good player. Right. I'm shocked at what's happened to him, to be honest.
And the one that I'm on the level of Thornton and Marlowe that I'm a little surprised that is still unsigned, and maybe it's something where they're just waiting for the right time to announce the signing, is Justin Williams, the hero of the Carolina Hurricane, their leader, their hero in the playoffs. 37 years old, Mr. Game 7. He is still unsigned. And I'm wondering, since we're getting in deep into the summer, whether this means he's done, he's retiring, whether it means he is not getting what he thinks is a respectable offer from Thomas Dundon, whether he's probably willing to go some other place to have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, I'm a little puzzled at this one.
Well, I mean, so let's look at his timeline on Twitter. So he congratulated Matt Cullen for a great career. Mm-hmm. Very classy. I like Justin Williams. I think he's a great guy. He congratulated Novak Djokovic for winning Wimbledon. That's nice. He said, "Holy smoke!" So he was into that. On the 22nd, he started his hockey camp, so that would hold it up because he's busy with his hockey camp. So this may be one that July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd, he actually thinks about it for 10 minutes and decides. That's what I think's happening.
Yeah, and there's a couple other names out there. I mean, it'll be interesting to see whether this. I mean, I would think they would want him back unless they think he was dropping off at the end of the year, and I didn't see any signs of that. I mean, his resume is phenomenal, and honestly, a team looking to win.
Let's be realistic. He's not the same Justin Williams.
No, but he's still good. He's still
pretty good. How many points did he have last year?
Last year, Justin Williams had 53 points, 23 goals and 30 assists. Played all 82 games. Played well in the playoffs.
That's a really good year for a guy his age. I gotta say.
I mean, really. I mean, I'm making cases for Thomas Vanek getting a PTO, and he only had 36 points. We're talking about a guy who, what was he, second or third on the team behind Aho and Teravainen? I mean,
you know what it is though, Williams. He's smart in the sense that he's 37. Everybody looks at him as Mr. Clutch. He's won championships. Like, he really doesn't have to come back.
No, he doesn't have to come back. And a couple years ago, and obviously I know they don't have the room, so I'm not starting a rumor here, but a couple years ago after their first round loss to Washington, and Justin Williams was, I think, still playing for the Capitals at that point, I was saying that's the guy the Leafs should bring in. Yeah, and instead they brought in Patrick Marleau, and he had the same effect in terms of being a good influence on a lot of young kids. They went in a different direction. They went with Marleau, and Marleau did that. But, if money isn't important and he just wants to go someplace to win a Stanley Cup, Toronto would be a fit. But I don't think they have the money to and they don't. And if they're going to waste money, and I'm not saying waste, but if they're going to spend money on a veteran guy, it's going to be on the blue line, and it's not going to be up front. So
here's a weird thing, okay? So when you look up Justin Williams, you get a lot of information, and then below it you get players that he's played with, right?
Yeah.
And so for Rod Brind'Amour, for whatever reason, Wikipedia is using like a Flyers picture from the 80s of him.
Right. And
I don't understand. And it's black and white. It's not even color. You got to look it up. It's pretty funny.
And Brind'Amour was very
– I think it looks like an early 90s picture, if you ask me.
Brind'Amour was very upfront saying that Justin Williams being captain and them being friends and then playing together was a big part of that team having success. So some continuity there, but from the coach to the team captain and funneling it down to the young players. So if they don't bring him back, I think it's another failing of the Carolina organization.
I don't know if I could blame Carolina on this one. This one's clearly up to Williams.
It depends on what the dynamic here is. If they're lowballing him for salary, then I blame Carolina. If it's Williams saying, he's not sure about retiring, then it's his decision. So, I mean, they could be culpable or they could not be culpable. We'll see.
Yeah.
Just a couple other names, and we'll take a couple questions in the chat. Ben Hutton for the Vancouver Canucks was.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Yep.
Thomas did exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Islander fan, he goes, they should go for Williams. You see what I was saying about the mentality yesterday? Sign everybody to an offer sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Tampa Bay going after Justin Williams. They're after.
I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. That's the whole thing.
It's Carolina or bust.
Yeah, I think it's Carolina or bust.
Okay. Ben Hutton.
Think about it. He's one of the best UFAs out there. Otherwise,
I agree. Just finishing up, Ben Hutton was not qualified by Vancouver. He was making close to $3 million. He's still unsigned.
He was overpaid.
Yes. Now the question is, is he going to be one of these guys who goes down the PTO route? I would think he'd get a 1-year deal, but we'll see.
I don't get it. You know what? I think he's going to be a PTO because I think otherwise he's going to get like a 2-way deal. And the likelihood is he's going to get sent down to the AHL for some time this year.
Now, there has been some talk about Brian Boyle either coming back to New Jersey or even going back to the Rangers.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
Okay.
I give the chance of Brian Boyle becoming a Ranger 0.0% chance.
Mr. Blutarski.
Yes. I mean, it's just like, I know they might need a center, right?
It's out there, Russ. It has been out there.
I get that it's out there because they're looking at the situation and saying, well, they have all these young guys. Maybe we need an established center. If that team gets him as a fourth-line center, they're setting themselves back. They're getting a slower player. Like, that's not the way they should be going with this.
Yeah, and he scored 18 goals last year. So, I mean, that's not bad.
Let him go to a veteran team.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that takes his effectiveness away in terms of, like, I mean, as a leader. I mean, he'd just be another player if he's on a veteran team. But
now, I think New Jersey has fairly good centers.
Mm-hmm.
But you also could play him on the wing. It's not like you have to play him at center.
Sure. That's true. The other name.
No, I wasn't finished. You're like,
I'm sorry.
That was very rude. You look at it with New Jersey, they have a lot of cap space, correct?
Yes. Tons.
So if they were interested, they'd have signed him already.
Right. And they haven't. So the other name is Patrick Maroon, who apparently the Blues, he's looking for a multi-year deal. The Blues may have been offering him a 1-year deal. So
that's what I think they were offering him.
Yeah. So there's a little tug of war going on there. So we'll see. Okay. I
want to get into Maroon just for a second because I felt like his worth was waning as the Stanley Cup went on, and I think you felt that way too. Because I think if he would have been as successful all year through, I think they would have given him a 2-year deal. But I think they felt like he wasn't as consistent as they wanted him to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, that goes hand in hand with their feeling about him during the regular season, because apparently he was on the trade block. They were willing to trade him at the deadline and then didn't. But I think his value, I mean, and maybe they don't put much value into somebody's crash and bang ability, but that's what he was in the final. And that in the end, I think, helped the Blues beat the Bruins, because I think the Bruins were worn down, and guys like Sundqvist and Maroon and Sammy Blaze, right. They made it tough on the Bruins as that series went longer. So,
right. Okay, but then think about this. He had that year with Edmonton. He had 27 goals, and he had 2 years in a row with 17 goals, and then he had 10 goals, but then he played that role. But from St. Louis's perspective, it's like, well, if we're signing you strictly as a crash and bang guy, yeah, we'll give you a 1-year deal, $2-3 million, but we're not signing you expecting you to score goals. And if he thinks he could score goals, they don't need that.
Right. And he only had 10 goals last year. So
right. I'm trying to see what he did in the playoffs. He did
4 or 5 goals. 3
goals, 7 points. I mean, yeah, you were right. He really was the crash and bang guy, and there's always so much money that teams are willing to allocate for that.
Okay, let's take some questions in the chat, and then we'll on the show.
All right. Questions in the chat.
While you're looking, just you mentioned before we started recording that Alex Tanguay took a coaching job in the Minnesota Wild organization. Well, Mark Savard, former Bruin and former Sportsnet commentator Mark Savard, has joined Craig Berube's staff in St. Louis. So
he can teach everybody how to tape their sticks.
Yes, very well by the way.
Yeah, I like Savard. He's a good guy, and he does have something to give, I think. All right. Mark Elias asked, is Gusev worth 3.4? I think he is. That's as high as I would go, though.
Right. And that's a 1-year deal.
That's a 1-year deal, although you could get really stung by that, because if he's close to what he was in the KHL and he gets like 65 points,
right,
you're probably not getting him back because you're a cap problem team. So that's,
and I don't know after the 1 year whether he's arbitration eligible, RFA, or if
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what his situation will be.
If he's a UFA and he plays well, then he sets himself up for a big payday.
Bill C, I have to say this. He recapped yesterday when I was asking Eck if he would sign Lawton to the same deal as Sissons, and then he said yes, and Bill laughed because I said I shouldn't have asked you. That was a funny moment. I still like that moment.
Yeah, if you would have asked me, you would have gotten the right answer.
Right. It just was a funny moment. All right. Let's see. Thomas asked, does Broussard make any sense for the Islanders? I don't think so. I really don't. Let's see. Jeff asks, why doesn't the league strike a deal to limit contract terms based on age? Well, because that's up to the GM. Why are they? The PA would never allow that because that's like ageism. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, and I heard somebody mention this morning, and I think they're sort of right on target. We always assume that, like in the new CBA, that the owners would be the ones advocating a decrease in the maximum term of a contract, meaning 8 years for the team re-signing their own players, 7 years for UFAs, and that they would want shorter deals. Well, based on the trend that's going out right now, some of these younger players, they seem to want shorter deals. They seem to want –
some do, not all.
Not all of them, but they seem to – Connor McDavid got the 8-year deal.
The superstars, potential superstars, want the short ones.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like now they don't want to limit some of these players like Colton Sissons getting 7 years. When you can get 7 years, why not? Don't limit it. But some of these star players, they want a chance to hit the big market again while they're in the middle of their prime, and that was the advantage for Kane, Taves, Doughty, Tavares. They all signed 5-year deals out of their ELCs, and they all turned UFA at 27, 26, 27, 28 years old. Kane and Taves re-signed with the Blackhawks. Doughty re-signed with the Kings. Tavares got $11 million as a UFA with the Leafs, and now Aho, Matthews, these guys are setting themselves up for big paydays, either with the team they're with or someplace else.
Yeah,
when they're 26 and 27 years old. So that's smart. That's smart for their agents, smart for them.
Yeah. Mark also asked, do I think that Vlasic's a bit overpaid? Yes. I do, but I think the problem there is when you've got freewheeling guys like Carlson and Burns, and you've got a little bit of shaky goaltending, he's a steadying influence. And so I think he's getting paid for that because they could put him out there for a lot of minutes. And even if he's not as good as he was 2-3 years ago, he's their best option as a true defender.
Yeah, I heard a lot of criticism of him early in the year last year, that he was just not playing up to the level that he had played in previous years. And then in the second half, he seemed to start improving. So I don't know if it was injury related or what, but the whole thing is, I think he's got 6 more years on that contract at $7 million. $7 million for a primarily defensive defenseman is an overpayment. But when he's in his early 30s, like Vlasic is, I think it's not a good contract. But they wanted to keep him, and they wanted to, they wanted to keep him in the rest of his prime, and probably finish his career in San Jose. And with this deal, he probably will.
Yeah. Adam said that Alex Petrovic is a solid UFA.
Yes,
I like Petrovic. I don't think he's getting a deal. I think he'll get a PTO. He's like Radko Gudas light right now, but I think he can fit with certain teams. Because, believe it or not, even though he's not a big scorer, he has a pretty big shot, but he's tough. And he's a physical guy, and he gets in your face.
Well, somebody made the point that, Edmonton acquired him. He's an Edmonton kid from Florida before the deadline, and then they barely played him. So, which just adds more fuel to the fact that Edmonton is completely dysfunctional. I hope he gets another chance. He's only 27 years old. He's a right-hand shot. He should get a feeler from somebody. We'll see.
I'm seeing if there's anything else. Andrew asks, Russ, do you think Proby gets a bridge or a long-term? How do you see this playing out? I think the bridge will be the last-minute Provorov.
You're off? Okay.
Yeah. I think bridge is like the last-minute option, but I don't think Provorov wants any part of a bridge. So I think it's going to be like 7.5 by 7. I think that's what it's going to end up being. Or if you see a last-minute bridge deal, then just expect to see what happened with Jacob Trouba happening to Ivan Provorov down the line with new management, because I think that'll be the last straw. Like, they'll have cost certainty with him, but they may not give him a no move or no trade or anything, because maybe they'll offer him up to Seattle. Like, who knows?
Well, they can't, because it's a second contract.
That's right.
Yeah.
but he could get traded. And so you might see something where in that deal after like 2 years, he can get traded, and then after that, maybe it's no move, something like that.
Right. I mean, if he's doing the slow walk to free agency like Trouba did, then the writing is on the wall. It's just a matter of time. Does Philadelphia,
even with the long term though, there may be like a clause that helps them.
Right. Maybe.
But I think they're probably tiring of him a little bit. I mean, I like him. Everybody knows I'm on record. I was really high on him pre-draft, but I do think this stance that he's taken has taken the shine off him a little bit in the Philly market. Now, maybe not around the league. I don't know. I haven't really gauged that. Mike, Biz Angel wants to know, Mike, did you put the fizzies in the swimming pool? I don't know what that means either. Okay.
Is that an Animal? That's an Animal House line, I believe.
Maybe. It might be. And I've seen Animal House a million times, but I don't remember all the lines.
I think that's a Dean Warmer line from the early part of the early part of Animal House. But anyway.
Yeah, it probably is. It sounds right. Thomas asked, why do we think Louis Domingue hasn't been traded yet? Why do I think he's going to get traded?
Well, it's funny because I just did a preview for or a review of what Tampa Bay did after getting eliminated, the moves that they made, which weren't many, Luke Shen, Curtis McElhinney. They gave McElhinney a 2-year deal, and the reason they did was because Domingue, who won 21 of 26 starts last year, is a UFA at the end of this year.
But they don't have to trade him yet, is my point.
No, they don't have to trade him yet, but the thing is that they may have to trade him before the beginning of the season because they're going to have to put one of those guys on waivers, and I don't think they're going to put McElhinney unless they think McElhinney will clear waivers with a 2-year deal, but I don't think he signed there based on playing in Syracuse.
No, I don't think so either. I think what they're doing is they're going to wait till that last minute to see about injuries, and then someone's going to come and inquire, and then they can get a better deal.
Right. Somebody's going to be looking for a number 2, and a guy who won 21-5 last year would be a pretty good option as a number 2.
Yeah. Now, Mike, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
What were your recollections of the 27 Leafs training camp?
I thought it was 29.
29 Leafs.
I was a sophomore in high school at that point. So.
Now, I think like the trainer got them together and like everybody had to have a big glass of milk before they got on the ice. What do you think about that?
I think half the team was lactose intolerant.
I mean, I just could only imagine, like, we saw that they were at like some sort of like mansion-y kind of like.
Yeah, it was probably Conn Smythe's mansion, and probably Charlie Conacher walked around the corner and drank a fifth of vodka or whiskey or something like that.
Do you think they had like a croquet tournament for team bonding?
I'm not sure. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. We will be back tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.